All right. Damn, is this thing on? Ladies and gentlemen, back to another episode of the Cal Rivals Excellent Podcast Experience. My name is Nam Lay. I'm joined, as always, by my friend and partner, Trace Travers. Trace, it's been a month and a half.
Yeah, it said 322 when I looked at the last time we recorded stuff.
My goodness.
Legitimate month and a half.
So we're in the doldrums. You know, this is a period that you and I have both navigated well, knowing like it's the slow season, but it's been enough now that we can talk a little bit about it. So this is going to be a grab bag of topics. We did more prep than we've ever done before this show, which is to say that we had any prep whatsoever. So Trace, I'll let you kind of steer the conversation however you like.
Let me see what I actually wrote as far as a schedule here. But it is May. It is a weird time because we have visits coming back in just under a month now. So I'm talking with people about, hey, you got offers? When are you coming to visit? So on and so forth. And there's that, but that can be kind of slow because they don't offer too many people to begin with. And then I regret not covering baseball because that would be something to fill the gap, but then I'd have to watch baseball, so I can only watch one baseball team at a time.
You only have room in your heart for one serious thing. I mean, congrats to the A's, recent long winning streak.
Best record in the major leagues, with the Giants having the best record in the National League. So it's a good time. Maybe we'll have a repeat in 1989, minus the earthquake. But let's start with what happened this past weekend, which was the NFL draft. And for the 33rd time in the past 35 years, Cal had a guy drafted. And it is Cameron Bynum, who is probably, I'd say the player most emblematic of the shift we've seen over the last 4 years of the Justin Wilcox era. Someone who started every single game, was a cornerstone of the Cal defense, not a highly rated recruit, but one who developed pretty quickly, showed that he could be trusted very early, solid, fantastic tackler. You watch a bunch of the highlights that went up last weekend, and he is much better than I always seem to remember. So, and also him doing a backflip into Big Bear Lake. Real impressive. Going up to Minnesota now.
I'm actually truly disappointed, because he did a front flip into a pool when Jalen got drafted. Jalen did not return this favor, but I just thought it would be cool if they had replicated the same thing and it became a tradition for Cal guys to jump into the pool for each other. But alas, obviously thrilled for Cam. 4th round, going to be converted to safety, which I think is a good move just because his foot speed, timed well enough at Pro Day, obviously,
and he did all the work with the Michael Johnson Performance Center in order to get there.
Yeah, but I think maybe the Vikings were looking at him and thinking he's not going to be, he's an NFL athlete, right? Mm-hmm. But he may not necessarily be the kind of step for step guy that they're hoping to see out there. So moving him to safety still takes advantage of a lot of his skill set. Incredibly smart player. Obviously, we know how much film he's grinded as one of the leaders of the takers. They've done several Pac-12 network film breakdowns with him and the rest of the group, and obviously the tackling. And I think that gives Minnesota kind of if they're using him kind of in this thumper-esque kind of role, I think he'll do well. And he is going to be backing up Harrison Smith, or at least learning from him. And
I played the other position as well. So.
Yeah. Ryan Connery tweeted out today. He was like, Cam just got drafted and he's already asking me for notebooks, just a guy who hungers for learning. You love to see him. And also on behalf of the Asians, he is half Filipino. So it's important. Lester.
I actually didn't know that. So yeah, it's pretty goddamn cool.
So my friend Lester has a quick story about that, which is like he ran into Cam on the field at the 2019 big game, and he looked at my friend who is not Filipino. He's like, "Are you Filipino?" Like because my friend Lester has like that kind of face and features. But yeah, Cam's half Filipino. I'll dig up the tweets at some point. But
Nice.
yeah, like holding it down for the people.
Yeah.
Uh,
Joining a large part of the Filipino diaspora here in the Bay Area.
yes,
So
sir. All right. So
largest Filipino population, I think, is in Vallejo.
Dale,
So
yeah, it might be Vallejo or Daly City. Daly City also has its fair share of like
one of the two.
Filipinos as well. Yeah. So thrilled for Cam, obviously. Looking forward to seeing what he brings up there in Minnesota. We also had two other Cal guys go
Yeah. Really saddened by
undrafted,
the
but
Jake Curhan heart condition news. He still got signed by Seattle. They're still waiting to make that official. And we're still waiting on a Redwood High School football player to get drafted. We've had two undrafted free agents to the NFL, and that's it so far. But it's good. He goes up to a team that needs offensive line help because Russell Wilson can only run for his life for so long.
true.
And then we talked to Deontay Johnson earlier today, actually, which is he's looking forward to get up to Minnesota along with Cam. He's excited about that possibility, along with playing for a guy who's Andre Patterson, who has been a coach for 39 years, I think, when I looked it up earlier.
Mm.
Just a guy who's a longtime defensive line guru type, has a history of turning undrafted and lower round guys into great draft picks or great players, excuse me. And Zionde could be the next. And Zionde's going to be a dad here in the next few months. So that's incredible.
It's an exciting time for all the guys. It was a really light draftable class of guys this year.
Since the super senior deal
Yeah,
is pretty big.
yeah. So there's nobody that's kind of like waiting around that I think we could reasonably expect to have made it professionally. I think I'm thrilled for all three guys. Curran, obviously, I believe the medical report on him was like it's not like life threatening. He's played with it, but it's just like maybe one of those things that like spooks teams off. And I hope that he, won as a NorCal guy going to Seattle. Like that's a pretty not too substantial of a change. I'm glad that he's going to get to be in a
Cold
place
and
that.
rainy, but still.
I was thinking more of like the general vibe.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's the same. It's just
yeah.
the weather and the seasonal affective disorder and stuff.
Yeah. So congratulations to the three of them. We'll be
Redwood High
eager.
School graduate playing for another Redwood High School graduate up there in Seattle. So holding it down.
Just waiting for an actual pick, and then you guys will have the whole trilogy.
Yeah, it's no, but Pete Carroll does tend to like his West Coast. Whether it was the Pac-10 guys when he first got there, like he had Cameron Mora for a while, and he picked up Forsett, picked up Marshawn, Sherman obviously was late round pick. Who was the dude from Oregon State who they had for as part of that Legion of Boom that God, I can't remember his name for the life of me. He played in Canada for a while before coming.
Brendan Browner.
That guy, yes.
Oh yeah, I contributed to the Trace tries to remember a guy game.
It's been a bit, so
yeah.
I'm still a little loopy from the wedding this weekend. So
no, you're great.
Having not been around people for 14 months and then getting thrown into the middle of that, it's weird. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Actually, that makes as perfect as a segue as we're gonna get because you were telling me a story before we got on the air from the wedding that actually dovetails into our next thing.
Well, I was a groomsman in a wedding who, my good buddy Connor from college, he actually asked, "Is Nam cool in person?" And I said, "Hell yeah!" So
he said, "Is Nam cool in person?" Like
no,
that was like
not exactly that. I should rephrase. I was saying that more for humorous reasons. More so, have you met Nam in person? I'm like, yeah. I talk to him pretty darn often. He's a cool dude. So you have one more person who knows who you are. So
Cheers. Congratulations to Connor. Anyway, what did you?
I was talking to his dad during the reception, and the first thing we talked to after I tell him, great speech, made me cry, all that fun stuff. But we started talking about Brett Johnson because everybody's bummed about Brett Johnson.
You talk oh my God, this is my
Yeah,
first public
he
comment.
said best two players on that defense last year, Brett Johnson and Cameron Good.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
he
So
mostly reads your stuff. So
this is my first public comment, I think, since the Brett Johnson injury. So as the leader of the Brett Johnson,
sounds like
one,
he's dying.
I
He's not.
mean,
He's
he's not
resting
dying.
up and feeling well back home. So
Yeah. We've been told that a rough timetable for his like starting football activities again is September-ish. So he's definitely the timetable does not match up for him to play this year.
he's not.
Um,
He's not going to play this year. They've
yeah,
already ruled him out,
yeah,
and I think it'd be irresponsible to play him this year.
yeah. My first thing, obviously, like having the immense fortune of having met the Johnsons. You and I met the Johnsons in Seattle. Like,
That's Mark, not me.
you didn't come to that Seattle game?
No, I did not.
Dude, I know Mark was there, right? I
I
could have
know
sworn.
I'm tall and Mark's tall, but we're not the same person. We don't all look alike.
No. You come with me to like almost every like I think that's a compliment. Like almost every significant Cal related memory that I have, right, over the last decade is like we did that together in some fashion, usually.
Both
So
there at the very least.
yeah, like so having met the Johnsons, like my first concern with a player who has any sort of serious injury, and especially when it involves like a accident like that, is for them to be healthy first and foremost as a human being. So I wish Brett like a full recovery, just a full personhood. Whatever he can bring as a football player after that has to be secondary, and I think it would be really irresponsible of us not to acknowledge that. And it's important for me to say that because I want to remember that these are student athletes that we're talking about, and they're
They're
people's is
kids.
yeah, they're
They're
kids.
still developing as human beings. Like, I don't think any of us are finished products. So, and
Definitely, yeah.
that's what he is. But this is also the same person who, shrugged off having COVID. Like, yeah, I played Warzone and ate chicken pot pies. So I
Um,
think he'll do fine.
yeah, I just it just when you hear the words accident, you always get fear the worst. So he's probably not as bad as it sounds like that I said right now. But I do wish him the best. On the field, this sucks, you
Yep.
guys. This, we were throwing around numbers on the board, like how many wins does this cost Cal? Like I think,
I don't know
uh,
if it necessarily costs them anything. I just think it becomes that much more difficult.
yeah. In the like individually, right? Like it's not gonna cost them, but like like if you're talking about plays made versus plays missed, like in the aggregate, it lowers the ceiling for the team somewhat because it places them in the position of having to rely on either some older guys who haven't really fully broken through yet, or some young guys who are literally just arriving.
And it's mostly going to be the latter in that regard, just because there are younger guys and there aren't older guys because of, issues they maybe not. Let's see. Just they haven't had as many defensive linemen in earlier classes than what they've gotten recently. So
Yeah.
it's going to be a reliance on younger guys at the very least.
Now, it's a good group of younger
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
It's an excellent group of younger guys. We'll start with talking about the freshmen, Akili Calhoun and Derek Wilkins
Wilkins and Miles Williams.
and Miles Williams, right? Like all three of those guys we've discussed wildly as part of an excellent front seven class for
And
Cal.
I watched some of the spring game back before this, and I watched some of what Akili could do. Just they said he's pretty raw as
Mm,
far as he didn't have a senior year and everything, but you can see the power. There are a couple run plays where it's just his punch out on them is impressive. It's knocking guys who are bigger than him back. And that I think that can translate pretty well, especially when a guy is 6'5" and 290 or 270 or whatever he is. He's big.
Yeah.
So might be 6'4", but we're splitting hairs at that point. You need. This is going to be the year where if Andrew Browning is as good as a lot of coaches say he is as a developmental coach, and yes, I can believe it because his group. I thought the defensive line was the best group amongst the team last year.
Absolutely.
But this will be the year where he proves it. So.
And if he does prove
certainly
it,
proved it in recruiting. I'll say that, and he continues to do so. I'm very impressed.
yeah, and if he does prove it, he's going to be kind of a next hot thing. Like people, other schools will come calling. Whether he makes the decision to stay with Cal or not, I can expect him to be kind of a hot product in the same way that GA eventually blew up into and whatnot. It's a big year. I want to talk a little bit about, Derek Wilkins, who I think is quite good. He's playing his senior season. I don't know if all the senior seasons are all over at this point. The school year is all a blur. Played his senior season. Haven't had a chance to watch new film on the guys yet, but played his senior season. He's going to be coming in here in the summer. Miles Williams, who sat out his senior season, we've been told that the program's not necessarily alarmed by that. I just poked around to see if I could figure out why, because I was so interested in his body type. I think Miles is a dark horse to develop into something interesting. I just think he has a very rare blend of athleticism and body wiggle. I wouldn't have played him up front, but I think he could go well, really, really well either way. I thought him as kind of like the big outside linebacker type, where they're playing Hizutaki, I think,
but they are playing Hizutaki and Urami Moore.
Yeah.
So I think it was the decision to sit out was probably motivated by, hey, I don't want to get injured before I go to Cal, and we sadly saw that with Caleb Elarmzor, who tore his ACL in the first game of the spring season. He has since had surgery. That's usually a 9-month recovery, so he's not going to play during the season. He'll
probably redshirt this year. Yeah.
Yeah. But, if there's a time to do it, you can at least get on campus and then, start the process of rehabbing and recovering. And Brian Johnson he's as solid as a guy as you're going to have at the strength coach position. He gets it. And I had the opportunity to talk with him for over a half hour last month, and he gets it. He gets it.
Did you want to share anything? Because I was gonna also throw to the last couple of DL guys. Did you want to share anything from Coach Johnson's interview also?
We'll get to that later. I have a bunch of different coach things that I want to talk about, but as far as some of the 2020 guys that can fill in, obviously McKenzie and Correa are going to be in the middle there at the nose tackle. They'll play some of that elephant package that they were doing during the spring game, which should alleviate some of the issues caused by Brett not being there, but it doesn't fix it. But from that 2020 group, you have Ethan Saunders, who you are very high on. You have Jaden Roberts, who I thought was a fantastic athlete in high school at the Connecticut Prep School, whose name is escaping me at the moment.
Avon Old Farms.
There you go. You're 2 for 2 tonight.
Well, I mean, I had that one in front of me, though, when I was just trying to make sure I didn't forget anybody.
Oh, good. And that group of 5 is pretty much what they're going to play some role in replacing Brett.
And if you can get a guy who can come in and give you even 70% of what Brett's going to give you, you're in a good place. And Saunders, I'd hoped to see last year. Haven't gotten
15 reps.
Yeah. Still haven't had a good look at him yet, but at least coming in, just really thick, really strong guy who holds well at the point of attack. But none, I mean, I wouldn't say none. All right, Derek Wilkins and Miles Williams do have some of the same like beat a guy one-on-one ability that Brett has, but look, when NFL draft guys are looking for tape of Cam and they're saying Brett's doing this from the zero as a true freshman, like they know he's an NFL player. Like the NFL draft guys who do this, professionally, not, like are seeing the same things as us. Like they think Brett is going to the NFL. Uh, it's a big loss. It's a big loss to lose one of your top two players because the other top player you're going to lose after this year anyway.
And it's just rough, but it's the nature of these things, and mistakes happen, and we say what if about all kinds of things all the time. So, and I should rephrase that. I don't want to say, oh, an automobile accident was a mistake.
Yeah,
it's not his fault, but stuff happens, and you have to deal with it, and that's kind of what people are paid a whole hell of a lot more than me or you to figure out how to do.
That's going to be obviously one of the main storylines, and especially one of the things we'll get a good sense for in the fall. Now, next up on your write up, we have a few recruiting notes.
Yes. So they've been offering kids pretty much left and right, or not even left and right. That's far too fast of a way to say it, but you have a handful of just interesting players. The ones I talked to yesterday were Bo Atkinson and Jack Nickel, both East Coast guys who are probably going to official visit. Nickel for sure, which is funny because his dad played for Stanford in the 80s and 90s. So, and he was committed to Notre Dame, so he'd be on a different side of a rivalry with Stanford if he were to commit to Cal, which would be very interesting. And Atkinson is very intriguing because he's a 4-star outside linebacker, like Braxton Croto on film, except maybe a little longer, a little faster. Which, when you have a 6'6" guy who moves like that, that's real impressive for that edge rusher spot. That's something Keith Hayward's working on. They got a bunch of running backs set to visit, like Jaden Ott. Let's see, Ashton Hayes, the kid from Washington whose name I can't pronounce, Juvensky, no, something or other. I'm gonna have to learn at some point. I know he's from, or no, that's he's from Haiti originally, but I think he was adopted. That was the thing. And then kid from Ohio whose name I will have to look up right now. Let's see.
As Trace is doing that,
Caleb Johnson from Hamilton, Ohio. And it's Juvensky Schlenbaker. Okay.
Yeah.
I was making that way more difficult than it needed to be. But
just he's guaranteed to be on the all recruit name list at the end of the year.
Let's see. Are there any other good names in this class? It's not like the kid from the last class who Cal wasn't going to get anyway because he ended up playing at I think Incarnate Word or Nicholls State this year, but Pig Farm.
Always a fun look at recruiting names. So, right now,
or no, it's Pig Cage. Excuse me.
Pig Cage.
Pig is a nickname.
Oh, okay. It's not. At least it's not his. That's not his legal.
No, he's not like Yeah, Pig Cage. He's not like the Godwin tag team in the WW then F in the mid '90s, where it was Henry O. Godwin and Phineas I. Godwin, because their initials spelled hog and pig. But there's always great names in the recruiting classes, and Schlenbaker is wow, that sounded like a southern accent. Schlenbaker is an excellent one.
Yeah.
Also Deuce McGuire, but he's going to Northwestern.
Northwestern, who had surprisingly high. I mean, I know they're a decent like team, but like they had a surprising amount of like high draft picks this year.
I believe it was the first time they've had a first round draft pick in something like 50 years.
It's crazy. Can you believe we beat that coach? Like
Yeah,
we
single
as
handedly.
yeah, we as bloggers, guys, if you'll allow me a moment because we haven't told this story in a while. Uh,
I think I was still, let's see, that was 2014. I wasn't doing any writing then, so
yeah.
you beat
So
them.
this
I did
this
nothing.
is this is for the old people's generation of writers. So basically, Pat Fitzgerald, like you may remember that 2014 game. One is the first Cal game in which they won in over a year, or nearly a year essentially. Um,
First
and
FBS team they'd beaten in 2 years.
Yeah. Luke Rubenzer, the surprise of Luke Rubenzer, like played a big role in that. Pat Fitzgerald was like, hats off to the bloggers who kept that a secret. But if you actually go on my timeline, you can see me ask it, like, if they had paid any attention at all, like they would have known that this was like an open thing that we were speculating on. Um, so if you want to give us the credit for the win, we'll take it, and that makes my coaching record 1-0. um, anyway, congrats to Northwestern. Um, in
Also,
terms of
for making the worst athletic director pick they could have made. So
that's right, they
they
almost did take Jimmy Knowlton, but didn't.
they weren't
Yeah,
terribly close on that, but they hired internally, and they hired a guy who happens to be one of 4 defendants in a major sexual harassment case against the school. So
it's not great.
swing and a miss there, Northwestern.
um, So as far as the recruiting situation goes, I think at this time, maybe next month, we'll have kind of a better look at where things are heading once, because like kids are gonna come in that
Yeah,
first weekend in June.
there's something like, I want to say, in the 20s or 30s as far as official visits they have scheduled so far. What I'm going to find interesting is just how many kids they're allowed to host on these
Yeah,
things, just with any limits that the state may have, even though we're on target to open everything up by June 15th.
yeah.
So
If any of the powers that be are listening to this podcast, by the way, which I know
don't,
there's a
for
non,
one.
don't for one, thank you, don't. But if there are, and I know that there's a non-zero chance, if any of the powers that be are listening to this, um, I don't know if you're giving away Cal branded face masks as part of like or not face masks, like masks for, I guess it is face masks, right?
Yeah.
Cal branded masks as part of your swag bag. I mean, you probably already have those on deck. Just make sure the kids
Oh,
get them.
yeah. They use a lot of the gators and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah, yeah. Um, but we'll know more about recruiting, I think, after that first round of visits, and also when I'm in the
It's a
summer.
very good group. So,
You have anything else you want to talk about for recruiting?
just it's a weird time. Again, I don't think anybody's gonna commit to Cal between now and when they visit. So
It'd
we'll
be
see.
really surprising because like
Yeah,
that would have been a kid who hasn't been on campus yet, and so
and we'll
we're
have the opportunity to come up to campus on a
yeah,
paid trip. So
yeah. Like, why would you do that before you, you know?
yeah,
All
and
right.
it's not like last summer where there were already enough limited spots and people were like, "Oh God, panic."
Mm.
So, but
Uh,
we're shaping up for a very exciting June.
it'll be the first like kind of normalish cycle in a long time too, because usually by now you'd have a few kids in the boat because they'd be able, like, if you just consider this to be where March or April would have been in June, like we're kind of entering that kind of same like timeline as before last year.
Mm-hmm. It's just weird. I can't. It's going to be very weird going back to normal.
hmm Um, it because like it does feel like we're preparing for a normal season this year, and there's a lot of uncertainty. But I think significantly less than like what it would have been last year. I mean, the school is still planning to go back with. I think they may be requiring vaccines. I know the CSUs are, but like uh, I think we can anticipate a mostly normal year. Maybe not 100% capacity crowd, but I would expect that we're gonna get some semblance of a full season this year.
Yeah, and if we can stand on our soapbox for a moment, get vaccinated, people. It's easy. Both of us are fully vaccinated, so do it
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if
if you
there's
haven't
any.
already.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a ton of listeners who haven't, but if there is one of those and we're able to get even one more person in the boat, uh, we think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, and don't want to fall out of the boat.
um, spring stuff, if you want to talk about any, but it was like a month and a half ago now.
Yeah, I think we've said everything there is to say about spring because I honestly don't know. There's some stuff I can say about like when I talked to Justin Wilcox a couple weeks ago,
Mm,
and he said as far as guys who have embraced kind of their nutrition stuff that we've seen added on to, were guys we saw standing out in spring, like Miles Williams and Oren Patu were two that came up right away. So I can, however, talk about the nutrition stuff. I'm working on a more full article for our site, which should be interesting. But the gist of it all is they got an expanded nutrition program that they've worked on with more selection for the players. It was something that apparently Jared Goff donated to, which has
excellent.
been in the works for a while. Is something Wilcox is like, hey, this past year we've kind of needed that when we've lost all this, time around each other. Guys have been at home, and this is a way to help our players be the best they can be.
Mm,
And there are guys who are taking to it. There's generally more selection as well. Some they it's always been through Cal Dining, but they've expanded some of the stuff through Cal Dining now, and it's just a very interesting thing at Cal where I don't think you hear stories about guys who maybe didn't have enough while they played at Cal, even a decade ago, even while we were students.
yeah,
I heard about that.
yeah.
But now there's a concerted effort to make it better, and it's going to pay dividends one way or another, depending. I mean, even if Wilcox leaves for a different job in a couple years, which honestly I don't think he will, just because he likes the relative anonymity he has. Like that one Wilner story about him being
Yeah.
recognized on Bart. It's like you're a college football coach. Don't expect to be recognized here very often.
Yeah.
But I think it's something that's definitely going to pay dividends down the road.
Yeah, definitely. And one, because it's like sustainable, because you have the infrastructure that's in
Yeah.
place and
And
the
I already
knowledge.
heard about it from a recruit saying, "Oh, this really stood out to me." So
Mm, yeah, like like that's in the arms race of college football to expand facilities and things like that. I think the coolest part is like being able to, and I'm glad that you brought up Patu here, because like uh, if we lived in a world in which Cam Good like wasn't coming back this year,
mm,
uh, unexpected bonus that it is, like Oren Patu would be able to, like, based on what we saw on film in the spring and the reports, like he has completed his like transformation, and it took like
he
three. Yeah, like
he's completed his training, but the Jedi Council has not
yeah,
approved his promotion to Jedi Knight.
yeah. We have not granted you the rank of master yet, but I think his time is coming. His time is definitely coming. By the way, very nice, timely joke considering yesterday was May 4th.
Yeah,
Um,
have to get one in. Good
yeah.
prequel meme.
um, like if Cam wasn't playing, I think Oren Patu would step in and we would be like, wow, we're not missing a beat. And it, he's still gonna play a big role. But if you could shorten the time for a guy to like gain 30 pounds by a year or even half a year, like that's gonna pay a lot of difference
Yeah.
down the line.
When you
Uh,
think of like Patu, you think of Cam Good, honestly, because he played at 220, I think, as a
mhm,
redshirt freshman.
yeah.
You look at a guy like Gavin Reinwald, who came here at 215. I think he played at 215 his freshman year, then took that whole 2018 redshirted and came back at 240, 245. So
Mm-hmm.
it takes time for these things to happen, and any way you can expedite it in a healthy way, which this is what they're doing. They have nutrition. They have a nutrition. They're hiring a nutritionist, I should say. Their last one left to go be a nutritionist somewhere else, but I think. Don't quote me on that. But I know that she left. I know that much. But anytime you can do this in a healthy way, it's going to pay dividends down the road. You already have nearly 600 pounds of good weight gained during this offseason or during the offseason leading into spring ball, which is
It's
nuts.
it's gonna be fun. Like weight watching season is always one of my favorite things to do. And I think do you want to throw in anything else from your recent interview stuff? We've done nutrition and
see, just when I was talking to Brian Johnson, we talked a bit about he was working with the Brain Institute at the University of Arizona, which is something you don't hear every day about, like just using biomarkers and stuff. And I don't remember the entire conversation because it was a couple weeks ago, but it was just, it's stuff I don't think about, obviously, because I'm not in that area. But, just having someone who thinks about that's a very Berkeley thing.
Mm-hmm.
When you're looking at biomarkers and seeing if you can use certain things in that area to help your guys' performance, to individualize certain things. And it's just interesting.
Yeah. So all really good stuff, and this is some of the cool content that we've produced or looked at over the last month and a half over at Cal Rivals.
Also, I learned that my cousin sold Trey Watson his house, so that was another small world type deal. Other side of the family from the one side. So
that was really funny to hear, and I made the joke. I was like, "That's not a violation, right?" But it's not.
That cousin is an Arizona State grad, actually.
Oh, okay.
So he did in fact consider Arizona State.
Okay. That's very cool.
I have a Cal side and a non-Cal side to my family, so
yeah.
There.
So it's not the side that
No, it's not homogenous. So
yeah. That's good to know, actually. Like my family's split is Cal, and then there's like a good group of like Gators, which is like from Florida and also San Francisco State also. So that's how the breakdown goes in our household.
That's a good happy coincidence with the SF State and Florida being right there. Only two Gators I can think of. There's got to be another. Like I'm thinking, I thought UAB for a minute, but they're the Blazers. So
that's a Gator. That's a Gator relative. It's in the lizard family.
It's true, and there are all those people that wear the shirt with the Gators on them, so they're probably a team.
All right, folks. Trace, do you have anything else that we didn't put out a call for questions this week, but we
didn't, and I'm glad we did because I didn't want to answer anything. So.
All right, folks. You heard the man. Okay, so thank you so much for listening to this kind of like mid-season update. For Cal, the next time you hear from us, we should see some normal movement on the recruiting front.
Anytime there's actually news.
Yeah. Hopefully nothing bad, hopefully, because I feel like 90% of the time we have to do an emergency podcast, it's for something bad. It's
hopefully it's for all gas, no brakes, like Steve Sarkisian, except some brakes, because I do not want to crash into a wall like Texas is going. Wait, no. Is Texas back?
Is Texas back? We will find out shortly. That's right. Sark is now the. We'll see. That's such an odd hire, man. I have some opinions there.
I get it. I just I want to see someone. You have the redemption storyline. I want to see him succeed, but I think there's just too much in the water there for. There's too many cooks in the kitchen, as it were.
And
But
like the pro and that's why, like, like, to tie this back to Cal, like Justin Wilcox, I can't imagine him loving dealing with the kind of like high pressure booster culture, like, as at a school like that, where you just have, like Joe Jamail, right? Like,
mm,
we don't have a person that's like gonna put their thumb on the scale so heavily in the program. And there's a bunch of like Joe Jamail wannabes in Texas, like, just like everybody who wants to be involved there. And
big
they're,
oil money J.R. Ewing
yeah,
types.
yeah, it's just it's
It's more A&M.
yeah.
Eh, I
But
don't know.
Texas has their fair share. It's a difficult place. So, best of luck to Sark. He's not our problem, So, I don't have any qualms against him winning. All right,
I mean, I'd like to see someone else win, but I'd like to see Iowa State win the Big 12 this year. I think they can.
that would be
So,
fun.
yeah.
You gotta love it when a small guy, like, not small guy, but like small school guy, like Matt Campbell, like, stays there for a while and achieves something. And
And Purdy is, I root for Brock Purdy. So,
it's a great name.
not as good as Chuba, but,
No, no,
you know,
but
Brock,
it's up there. It's up there.
Purdy family has some good names. They could have offered Brock. Still, I'm surprised they never did. But
You
that's
know,
neither here nor
one day we're gonna get to one day we're gonna get to do that pod where we do get to kind of go to those stories. But that is not this day, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to a longer than expected version of this podcast. I thought we were gonna do like a quick 30 and out, like,
it'll
news
have the
update
nice
thing.
intro music there too, since we've gotten
Excellent.
positive reviews from that.
Excellent. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to the Cal Rivals Excellent Podcast Experience. Signing off for myself and my partner, Trace Travers. Thank you, and go Bears.